Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Auscast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Auscast.
Simply head to auscastnetwork.com for details.
In a world where everyone says hello,
they dare to say,
g'day.
Yeah, g'day.
Yeah, g'day.
Yeah, g'day. Yes. Good day. Yeah.
G'day.
G'day. Yeah. G'day. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good day.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, g'day.
G'day. Hey. Yeah. G'day. Yeah. G'day, Tim.
Yeah, g'day, Leon.
Yeah. G'day, everyone.
Yeah, g'day, everyone.
Welcome back to our recording studio. It's been a week.
Yes.
Lots has changed down here. You see the mural that I've painted on that wall. It's very erotic, but I think...
It's in invisible ink, though, so you have to shine a black light on it.
Oh, yeah, and the black light shows other stuff that you don't want to see.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be back in here. It is... I always forget the technical term, but I think it's fucking cold.
Yeah. It's rainy.
Yeah, inside.
I woke up
water
this
everywhere.
morning and I opened my window because on the weekend, not my window, my curtain. On the weekends, I have like a little luxury. I close my curtains so my room's entirely dark because I don't have to wake up early. But you know what? I woke up early, I reopened them, and I enjoyed the storm. I laid in bed and I enjoyed the storm.
Told the storm some stories, had a laugh together.
Yeah, we got along well. We might get a second date out of it, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed it. I forced myself to stay in bed. And as always, we know that people in other countries that may or may not be real are going to attack us and say that it's not cold down here. But for our little Australian bodies, this is chilly.
Yeah, it is quite chilly.
And I can't feel my feet. So we, episode 45.
45 episodes.
Lordy, over 40.
Yeah, naughty 40.
No, and are we? And so that means it's time for another bush ranger.
Yes.
Someone
correct.
who ranges the bush, someone who the bush ranges. It's one of those episodes.
Do they range the bush or does the bush range them?
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It's a journey. It's not about the ending. It's about the bush.
Oh, I just cracked my hip. I'm getting old. Let's talk about Joe Byrne.
Joe Byrne. He's the next one out of the Kelly gang.
He's the last one before the big kahuna.
Yeah. At 50. When we have our 50th
Birthday?
birth episode party. Episode?
Oh, yuck.
Yeah.
No.
Ooh, I'm having a episode.
Ep day?
Yeah. Joseph Byrne.
Yes.
So I'm doing the facts again.
Yeah,
and
look,
then we'll throw it back to you.
Everyone should remember, in the first Kelly Gang episode we did, I did the facts, and I was like, I'll do the facts for this, and it wasn't good. So then we moved back to Tim,
Yeah.
and then we've done that again, and I've made the promise that I'll do Ned.
Neddy.
Because at that point, I'll also be teaching Ned in class. What are you glaring at?
There's like a little piece of something beside you and you keep knocking it and it keeps glinting in my eyes.
Oh,
and
that's some sparkly stuff.
Yeah,
from,
I'm excited by sparkly stuff
from
like
James
a small
and
child.
Erin's children.
Yes.
From different marriages,
yeah,
not together.
fabulous. Yeah, no, good. Yep. Okay, well, I'll tell you about Joe then.
Please.
Yes. So Joe Byrne doesn't have his name as... Oh, no, it does have his name as Joseph. So his full name is Joseph Byrne.
Oh, interesting.
Just in case people didn't know what Joe was short for. Joe Byrne, born in 1856 in Woolshed.
In a woolshed or in Woolshed? Is Woolshed a place?
Wikipedia says the Woolshed. I'm pretty sure Woolshed's actually just a suburb.
Okay.
In Victoria. It's near Beechworth. So he was born in Australia.
Good.
In
Born
Australia.
In the woolshed of the woolshed.
Yep. His father was Patrick Byrne, who came from Carlow in Ireland. His mother's name was Margaret. Her maiden name was White. She was born in Scariff in County Clare in Ireland as well. She was one of what they call the Irish famine girls. So these are a group of girls that immigrated to Sydney due to the Great Irish Famine that was happening at the time. Out of all of these workhouses, and they brought them to Sydney and Adelaide.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Port Phillip, which is here as well. Is Port Phillip in?
Maybe.
Anyway, They brought them over from the workhouses to be in Australia because of the famine.
To do what with them? To have them work here instead of there?
I presume so,
'Cause there was no
yeah.
food there.
There's not a lot of records. Apparently, a lot of the records got burned up. But she was in Hyde Park Barracks in Sydney for a while
Okay.
with all these other girls. Anyway, eventually she meets his father, Patrick, although it doesn't really tell us how that happened exactly.
They tripped over one another in Hyde Park.
Yeah, probably. And ended up in Woolshed, and Joe was born. He went to Catholic school.
Oh, good.
He was a good Catholic
He's
boy.
An Irish boy, so of course he did.
Yeah, he started in 1862. He was a pretty good student, apparently. Normally among the top students in his class.
Okay.
And developed a reputation. Wikipedia says developed a reputation as a flash writer. I don't know what that is.
I think he wrote Flash the comic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
18. That started in 1860 something. I think was when the Flash comic first came on.
Yeah.
On the scene.
Don't look that up, but
No,
I'm pretty
don't.
sure it's true.
Flash writer. Maybe he wrote stories about flashes.
Yeah, maybe. I'm thinking maybe it means he was just like a really quick and good writer of some kind.
He could write on a slate. He could do 2 words a minute.
Yeah.
Fastest around.
That was pretty fast back then as well. A lot of people were illiterate.
You can try
I'm just
and
looking up
Google it?
Flash writer, yeah.
What if it's just going to say who the
It's
writer
just
is
come
of
up
the
with
Flash?
yeah, it's just about the Flash TV show mostly.
Incorrect.
Andrew Kreisberg. So he was Andrew Kreisberg.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
And now
yeah,
we're going to be upset about Andrew Kreisberg.
Yes. So anyway, this is kind of important later. It seems unimportant now, but he became very good friends with a fellow student of his named Aaron Sherritt.
The shirts.
Yeah, the Sherritts. Aaron Sherritt.
We've talked about them before.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Or did you want me to pretend like we hadn't talked about it to
I
make it more
had
interesting
forgotten.
later on?
I had forgotten, to be honest.
We've talked about the Sherritts many times. I think mainly in this. I think it was in the Steve Hart episode mainly.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's
Aaron
pretend like we don't know who they are.
Aaron plays an important part later on.
In the Flash.
Yeah, so Joe's father, Patrick, developed heart disease while he was still at school. And his results began to suffer as a result.
As they do.
He finished school in 1869 with a 5th grade education, which was pretty high back then.
That is
That's actually
top of
pretty
the line.
good,
That's
yeah.
the equivalent of a PhD today.
And his dad died the same year of heart disease.
Oh, no.
And here's a fun fact. We talked about this kind of in passing, but this is actually like probably the best example of it. Joe actually learned how to speak Cantonese from nearby Chinese gold miners.
Oh, yeah.
He also learned how to smoke opium from them.
Well,
But we'll concentrate on the Cantonese.
once you can speak the language, you may as
yeah.
well ask for some opium.
Because that's something that we didn't even really learn about in school in Australian history.
The fact that most Australians in the gold rush could speak some kind of...
because there was a
Cantonese
large contingent of miners that came over from China during the gold rush.
Yeah.
A lot of them, a lot of Anglo-Saxon Australians, and I'm assuming Indigenous Australians as well, probably, were able to speak Mandarin and Cantonese during that period.
I know that in one of the... It's either in the big book that I've read or one of the many things that I've read. They talk about the fact that, it's pretty much undoubtedly that the Kellys would have spoken.
Because they would have been interacting in the town, having to buy things off one another, trading and whatnot. They would have had to have learned.
Yeah, I think it's cool. And it's
awesome.
I think it's weird that we kind of lost that.
Yeah. There's actually another episode that I'd like to do. I haven't talked to you about this much at all.
Great, let's talk about it here in front of all our fans.
We'll get to it eventually about the Indigenous Australians in the very north of Australia trading with Indonesians who were at that time and continue to be today followers of Islam. And that the Indigenous Australians of the very north were aware of Islam and their traditions and whatnot. So that's maybe
cool.
something we should look into in the future as well.
Yeah, we should also talk about the gold rush. Anyway.
Yes, we should. Let's get back to Joe. So anyway, Byrne and Sherritt, very, very good friends, but they kind of got themselves into a bit of trouble.
Mischief.
Falling afoul of a local corrupt police constable, it says. They were all pretty corrupt back now.
Yep. Back now. Did you say back now?
Back now, yeah.
Back now.
Absolutely. 1871, he had his first appearance in court for illegally using a horse.
What did you do with that horse?
First of all, the first charge is always about horses.
Yeah,
it's
obviously.
always about
It's gotta
horses. And in my mind, a horse is a car. So I imagine a lot of criminals' first things nowadays
Horses,
probably
a car.
about cars.
Yeah.
So it's like a similar concept when you
So
actually think
illegally,
about it.
so he was having sex with a car.
He was, fucking the tailpipe of a car. Sorry, a horse.
Horse.
Tailpipe?
Horse car?
Yes.
Anyway, he wasn't.
Had to pay 20 shilling fine, which is probably a fair bit back then.
Yeah, rough.
Later convicted of stealing a bullock and served 6 months in the HM prison, Beechworth. And during that time, Byrne and Sherritt both met Jim Kelly, who's brother of Dan and Ned. And then Joe Byrne actually met Ned later on in 1876, and they became very good friends.
Oh, best
Very quickly.
pals.
Yeah.
You stole a horse? I stole a horse.
Yeah.
Oh, I also stole a bullock. Ooh.
Yeah. Everyone back now,
Back now.
stole horses. That's just what everyone
we've
did.
all done it.
Yeah. So Dan discovered some abandoned gold diggings at Bullock Creek, and so Byrne, Sherritt, Dan, Ned, and Steve Hart during the next couple of years kind of like worked or must have played around in there a fair bit.
Okay.
So that seems to have cemented their friendship. He was then later present at Stringy Bark Creek.
He was there. Bet you wish he wasn't. Bet
Yes.
he wishes he wasn't.
Yeah. It seems like out of all the boys, he probably had the best trajectory if things didn't go shitty for him with his dad. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah. Probably, because he was a smart boy. He had a 5th grade education.
Yeah.
And he could speak.
Yeah, so he was there at Stringy Bark Creek, and obviously they were all declared outlaws at that time. Price of £2,000
Be interesting if
placed
they
on
were
their heads.
declared in-laws.
Yeah.
How is that the term? In-laws for like when you marry into someone, but then outlaws is the term for people that are criminals.
Because they're your family in law, not in blood.
And so these are people, but I just think it's weird, like, because usually in-law and, like, usually in and out refer to the same thing. Inside and outside is two sides of being
The side.
side.
Yeah.
Whereas
The side is the object.
in-law
one
and
is the
outlaw, in-law is your family in-law, as you say, but outlaw is people that are just
something
outside of the
completely
law.
Yes.
It's not two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
It's not two sides of the same side.
a valid observation.
Back now.
No, are we're gonna keep going with this? We're gonna waste time.
Whatever.
On this.
Anyway.
No, it's an interesting.
No, you go.
Please,
Please,
continue.
please. I don't want to step on anyone's toes.
Anyway, as we said, Byrne was very, very smart. So Ned ended up consulting him a lot about strategy. He became something of a lieutenant. Yeah, he was involved in the Aurora branch of national. I definitely said that wrong.
What was that word
Rah.
for you? Rah.
How do you say that?
Euroa.
Euroa. Yeah, the robbery at Euroa where they stole over £2,000 there.
Yep.
And he helped plan that. Yeah, he was just involved in all that stuff, and he was something of a lieutenant.
Yeah, he was part of the
obviously.
gang.
Yeah,
He was the second eldest as well, because remember we're doing this by age, so he's the second eldest.
That's correct. So I'm just trying to get to the part of the story because we know about all of the stuff that they did. They rode around and had fun.
They did their thing.
Once we get to Glen Rowan is when things go to shit, obviously.
They went to shit for 100% of the Kelly gang.
Yes.
All of the Kelly gang shit went.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the end of that sentence.
Thank you. And it seems like throughout all of this time, Sherritt wasn't part of the gang, Aaron Sherritt,
No.
but he was kind of used by Byrne and the gang to kind of like mislead the police a lot.
Yeah, I think he was kind of there.
He kind of told them things that weren't true to get their attention directed in other ways.
Yeah.
And then the boys would go and rob banks like they did it at Benalla in 1880.
Yeah.
I think they did it a few other times. But then after Benalla, they were planning a raid in the Goulburn River area, and Ned and Joe thought that he had become an informant, so they murdered him.
They sure did.
It seems unnecessary. Do you know if there's any proof that he was actually informing on them?
I do not know. I can't think of it because I don't... From all the stuff I've read, I never remember anything about Aaron Sherritt. It's more the stuff that we've been doing on this show.
He's kind of like an important part, but also kind of not. Like it's kind of like a side.
I think the important
story.
part is that it seems pretty clear they did kill him.
Oh, they definitely. They definitely seem.
But there's also
him.
because remember in one of the other episodes we did, they talked about the fact that there was like police staying at his house and that.
Yeah, that's true.
And so there was that whole thing. So yeah, whether he's informed or not, who knows? But they killed him, so they made that decision.
So it was Dan. Sorry, it wasn't. I said Ned and Dan killed Aaron. It was actually Dan and Ned. Dan and
Joe
who
Mate,
killed.
come on. There's only 4 names.
So, all right. Okay. No, you're right.
Steve, Ned, Dan, Frank, Michael,
and, Jimmy,
James,
Yep.
Jeremy.
There was Sharon. She was
Jebediah.
later on. Yeah.
Jeremiah.
So the next day after they killed Sherritt, because they killed him on the 26th of June, 1880.
Yep.
That's when they took over Glenrowan.
Yep.
And they teared up the rail line in anticipation of the police coming down the rail line. Still
a stroke of genius, no matter how horrific it is.
Absolutely. Held 60 people hostage in town. We all know this story. But Tom Curnow, I don't know how you pronounce his name.
Probably Curnow, maybe.
Curnow, the school headmaster, one of the schoolmasters of the local school, managed to get Ned's trust, escaped, warned the train crew, etc. The 34 police that were on there managed to get off, which led to the siege at Glenrowan. One of the most interesting parts, because Joe's like the lieutenant, and he seems to be largely the brains of the group, to me.
Probably.
Like Ned's
He would have the most education by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
I assume the rest of the boys, because they all got in trouble pretty early on, so I wouldn't say that they were well-schooled.
Yeah. Ned's the leader, and he seems to be in control of the whole thing, but it seems to be, they always seem to deflect to Byrne on a lot of the intellectual and planning decisions. So it's believed that he was heavily involved in designing the armour that the boys wore.
Yes.
During Glenrowan.
Well, so much his intellect did on that one, am I right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he designed it and they made it, and then he got shot in the groin, which severed his femoral artery and he bled out.
Yeah, as you do when you get shot there.
Yeah. And I'm a little bit confused as to when this happened. Like, I think they mustn't have been expecting the attack or something, because the eyewitnesses say that just before he was shot, he offered a toast, here's to the bold Kelly gang, or some of them say that he said many more years in the bush for the Kelly gang. Anyway, he offered some kind of toast, and then a bullet must have been fired semi out of nowhere. Perhaps they were ambushed. Do you know what happened here?
The story, like the kind of Glenrowan siege situation, like they have their suits of armor around. They're prepared for something to go down, but they're obviously
they know something's about to happen.
They're trying to cut out most of it by pulling up the rail tracks. But then, from my understanding, like, you know, the siege kind of starts, and they, I think, get on their suits of armor and everything. But I think, like, Ned definitely got his armor on, because Ned kind of fucked off, like, and kind of tried to come around the back of them and get them that way. But when we've read other stuff, it's talked about the fact that because it's Joe and Steve that were found lying next to each other?
Yeah.
So
later on in
yeah, Joe and Steve. Was it Joe and Dan? Anyway, Joe's one of the ones that's found.
Joe and Dan were found in.
And it talks about the fact that he could have been shot fairly early on, and just like it didn't kind of come to light until after, because there was a siege going on.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, going off the information we've kind of pulled, there's a likelihood that Joe may not have got his armor on and may have caught a bullet very early in the siege.
Yeah, it seems like he was killed pretty early.
Yeah, and then they didn't find him until, you know, they realized that the two of them were lying there. Yeah. But wait, no, was it Steve and Dan that were lying?
Steve and Dan were found inside the Glenrowan
next
after it had burned down. Where it appears that they
may have killed themselves.
Whereas
Joe is just flat out.
Joe seems to have just been shot really early on in the raid, and perhaps the other boys didn't realize or something. Yeah, and he bled out.
But yeah.
So yeah, that's what happened to him. It actually turns out as well, they locked his body up in Benalla. They hung it on a door to be photographed by the press, which is pretty fucked up, to be honest. His family didn't claim the body. I think he probably... they may not have been psyched about what he was doing. And the police refused to hand it over to any sympathisers because they thought that if they did that with any of the bodies of the boys, that it would spark some manner of rebellion or be a rally point for a rebellion.
And they might turn them into some kind of Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, so...
that was likely.
Perhaps.
That'd be a cool conspiracy theory.
That's science, isn't it? So
I reckon that'd be a good story, the Kelly gang be Frankensteined up.
So he was buried on the same day as Sherritt. I'm assuming at Benalla, because it doesn't actually say exactly where he was buried, but I'm assuming it was at Benalla, since that was where his body was taken.
Yeah.
So he was buried at the same time as Sherritt, and we already know Dan and Steve shooting that seems to they shot themselves, and old Ned we'll talk about in 5 episodes.
We will. We've been building up to it for 49 episodes.
Yeah.
By the time we get there, the thing about our Kelly gang discussions and all our bushranger discussions is that now some bushrangers, I guess, didn't treat other people as people, maybe because they shot them down, and whether that's respectable or not. But either way, the shit that the press and the police did in terms of taking pictures of their bodies, hanging them up on doors, like trimming their beards off, like skinning their beards essentially, that's just fucked. Like it's all fucked.
It seems to be a reflection of how incredibly pissed off the police were.
Well, yeah.
At number one, not catching them. I think the boys, I think they went out of their way to piss them off, which is fine because, like we said, at the time, a lot of the police force was very corrupt.
Yes.
And the boys were doing it not with necessarily the express purpose, but kind of also a little bit to get back at the administration. And there is a legend, obviously, that Ned and Joe drafted a declaration of a Republic of Northeast Victoria, which was discovered in Ned's possession.
Ooh.
Which was destroyed by the Victorian government. So there's actually a legend out there that Ned and Joe had drafted some kind of manifesto for maybe some kind of independence or something of that nature, which would give their motives a lot more political.
That's interesting. I don't think I've heard that before.
Yeah, we might need to look a little bit further into that because that's something I discovered in my little tiny bit of research on Joe today. So that's something interesting. I mean, and you can just tell the way that they interact and the way that everyone seems to interact with the police at this period. That everyone's very aware.
The police were not great then. I don't want to say they were bad because in research, and as we've said before, we're not trying to glorify bushrangers necessarily. We're just trying to talk about them because
the boys did some fucked up stuff.
Oh yeah, and it's a very important part of our history, and one of the bad parts of our history that Tim and I are actually comfortable talking about. Because there's some stuff that we won't talk about on the show, but and there are people that, because they're family members that have been killed in that. There's massive issues around that, and there's massive articles and research that's been done about how Ned's such a villain. There's a new movie coming out where I think someone's going to paint Ned more as the villain character again rather than the hero character.
Because I mean, you've got the two sides. You've got Ned and the boys being gentlemen with all of in the towns that they take over and being quite friendly to the people, and the possible political motives and trying to fuck with the police a lot and all that sort of stuff. But then you do have the fact that they killed Aaron Sherritt, and Ned did shoot a policeman as he ran away.
Like they did some shit
in the back. So but
it's just like you cannot have a show about Australian history and skip over the amount of bushrangers and the biggest bushrangers that we had.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of whether you view them as hero or villain, and we're not here to tell you how to view them.
Yeah. So I know I said this before we even started. I've actually found Joe to be one of the more interesting boys in the gang.
I think he's interesting because he wasn't set for this life.
No, it seems like if things had been different, he would have ended up in a very different life.
I assume that he was probably the scribe for the letter at Jerilderie as well. If he's a scholarly boy, he probably wrote it down whilst Ned went over it. But it's just an interesting point of history. So that's, as we said, the last. Now I will backtrack to something I said about 10 minutes ago, where I said that Joe is the second eldest. He might not be the second eldest. He was just the eldest out of the 3 before Ned.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember if Ned's the eldest, but we were definitely leaving Ned to last for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But so we've built up to it, and I'm excited. I don't know what information to bring about Ned because there's so much to pick from. There are so many conspiracies around the end of it, as we've talked about before, about where their bodies were, if their bodies were actually where they were, and blah, blah, blah. But it'll be interesting to say the least.
It will be very interesting.
Maybe we need to do another trip over to for me, I don't think you've been to Old Melbourne Jail.
Yeah.
Have you been
Well,
there?
I mean, I haven't been there, but I work very close to it.
Oh, so for anyone that's in Melbourne and you want to go for a trip around it, it's very cool. There's like all the cells are there, obviously. But the interesting thing and the creepy thing about every cell is there's like a death mask in every cell from the various people that were there at the times. That includes Ned's death mask. I'm pretty sure that's there. They have the gallows, but they're in a different spot to where they were. I think they've taken the gallows from where they were and put them there.
Yeah.
But even being near them is very weird. And for me, I've talked about this on the show before, the weirdest experience I had was being in the room that Ned was in before getting taken to be hanged. And there is definitely a very strange feeling in that room. For me, maybe more specifically than others, because I've got because of how deeply I've read into it. So it's a very interesting place.
It is.
Don't go on the don't pay for the experience. I think it's free anyway. Don't do the experience where they take you into the other jail, like the modern jail, and they do the whole lock you in a room and they take you around. That's
not worth it. I
silly.
think I might need to go to the Melbourne jail before we get to Nettie.
Yeah, I think so. Let's do it. Let's have an excursion.
Let's try and do that.
Let's just hook it up with them. We'll just record in there. I'm sure they'd love it if we just sat at the gallows and recorded.
Oh yeah, and the reverberation will sound really good.
It's great. But there are 2 new movies coming out as well. I think, as I said, one's painting Ned, I think, as the villain again. And I think there's another one coming out. There's been some Kickstarters and things like that. On a scale of 1 to beard,
I was about to ask you the exact same question. There's kind of 2 photos of Joey Jojo.
Yeah.
There's the nice one, and then there's the fucked up door one.
Yeah. Let's go off the nice one.
The nice one, he is as bald as a baby's butt.
Okay.
He does have a mustache, though.
Ooh, okay. Well, we don't have a mustache scale because why would you have a mustache when you have a beard?
So who's at the bottom right now? Wasn't Joe?
Look, Tim,
Steve didn't have it.
I'm gonna flip this around on our fans. Our fans, Tim.
Yeah, Steve didn't have anything, so he's the bottom of our scale.
Our fans haven't even bothered to draw us.
Do you even love us?
They haven't drawn the scale.
Do you even love us?
You've got Ali Shance, whatever her last name is, putting in all these hours to make a flag for us, which is great, and we will have a copy of that soon. And then the rest of you lazy son of a... No, but anyway.
Wonderful. Elegant.
We love you. I will try and make a scale because I've lost absolute track. Yeah. But if he's got a moustache, that puts him in kind of the lower end, the less than 5 if you're looking on a numbered scale.
So I can confirm that Steve had nothing. So Steve Hart is the bottom.
Well, because he was like 19.
Yeah. But then Dan, in his most famous picture, only has a mustache as well. Mm-hmm. So if Steve's the bottom, then it seems that Dan and Joe, in their nice photos, are there. But here's the thing: by the end, that kind of really messed up picture of him on the door, he does have quite a large beard.
Yeah,
it's probably a little bit bigger than yours, to be honest.
How dare he?
But no mustache. He's rocking the Amish look.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's got a nice haircut though.
Whilst he's hanging on the door.
Yeah, I got to stop looking at
One of the policemen were nice enough to comb his hair for him.
It's really messed up.
Very good. Tim, our beards always look good because we use Bushrangers Brew.
It's true.
You can find Bushrangers Brew at www.bushrangersbrew.com. And when you're there, you can use the discount code YEGADAY, all one word, and in caps when you're feeling saucy, to get 25% off your order.
Yeah, I've been very dedicated to balming my beard lately.
You have been. I've been good.
Really balming it.
Steady on. And what flavor's your balm again?
Rum Rebellion.
I say flavor because you got to eat it.
Yeah,
obviously.
Oh, it smells actually very nice.
And your wash is
Bunyip Dreaming.
Bunyip Dreaming.
Yeah.
I am Mystics through and through. I've got Mystics everything. I recently got a new bottle because you go you don't go through it quickly. Here's the thing. Quick tip for our friends.
Lasts a good time.
Yeah, a quick tip for your friends. Now, I'm naughty. I use quite a bit of the shampoo because I like to get a bit of a lather going. It's not meant to lather, but I like to use enough to lather it. So I go through a bit quickly. Sorry, Joel. But the oil, and if you use it the shampoo, the amount that is recommended, it lasts for like 6 or more months. So you spend I think it's like, between $20 and $30 or something for oil or the wash. And you get 6 months or more use out of it, depending on how long your beard is and if you have the beard that whole time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's lasted longer because I haven't had a beard. But anyway, got to use it. I get compliments on my beard all the time.
It's not bad.
And so, I'm just pretty attractive as it is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're done. You don't have to do
We're
that
done.
anymore. Yeah.
Tim, what's that sound?
I don't know. What is it?
It's a Harold Holt watch. I'm glad that we're getting good at that.
Flawless.
Getting good at it after 45 episodes.
The key is for me to forget that it's coming.
Yeah.
Because then I genuinely ask you.
Then you are
I don't know,
surprised.
what is it? Yeah.
This is not staged.
Yeah.
Tim, I've got a letter. It's a bit of I think it's a longer one. It's just that whoever wrote it didn't really use paragraphs at the time.
Okay.
Dear Tim and Leon, my name is Kelly, and I've been listening to your show since episode 1, Dating.
Oh.
Now, that's a blast from the past, Kelly.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we apologise. I'll talk to you about that in a second. I've even started working on some university research based on the show.
Oh.
Ever since the first Harold Holt watch, I've been keeping an eye out for our elusive man. Finally, I've spotted him.
Oh, yes.
I was watching one of the World Cup games the other night as I was at the pub and it was the only thing on TV.
Ah, yes.
As the camera swept around over the crowd, it paused on the face of a man who had his face painted to match the jersey of the Australian soccer team. The camera stayed there for 10 seconds, and in that moment, I knew that I was staring Yergaday's white whale in the face. Harold Holt was there. He was at the game, supporting the country he loves, but they never showed that section of the audience again.
Of course they didn't.
I can't wait for the world tour, and I look forward to writing a thesis about the positive impact the show has had on the youth of Australia.
Fantastic.
Best wishes, Kelly.
Oh, Kelly, look, thank you for writing in, and thank you for including a contemporary event so as to
relevant.
make it relevant to the time period that we are recording in.
So relevant.
No, interesting. Good.
The World Cup's in Russia, isn't it?
Yes.
I have no idea.
I actually don't know.
I think it might be.
All I know is that we did a sweep at work, $2 buy-in. I got Costa Rica, 400 to 1 odds that they're going to win. So I wasted $2.
Tim's, this is the last show Tim's doing. He's just made a lot of money.
The only one that I think got a worse pick than me is a good friend, Glenn.
Oh,
Glenn. He picked Iran, so he's looking forward to, I'm sure, a glorious win.
I think Australia are out now too. But anyway, so Harold Holt spotted in the crowd with green and yellow on his face, screaming for the country he loves to kick that sports goal.
Yes. Kick the round thing through the hoopy. Is there
and
a
get
hoop
a basket?
involved?
I think is what they call it.
Yep. Bowl it down the green. Hit it for 6.
So 2 things that I want to talk about. Well, there's more things, but 2 things from that letter I want to talk about specifically. I, completely unrelated to the letter, nothing to do with the letter.
No, it's not about the letter.
I was quickly going through our original episodes.
Yeah.
And by quickly, I mean I was trying to find where the first Harold Holt watch was, completely unrelated to the letter.
Yep.
And I couldn't. I think it's episode 2, the Olympics. I think it's when we first did it, and that was back when we had the our Nokia phone that went off and everything.
Ah, yes, fantastic.
But I don't know if it was there. So someone just tell me where it is, because I know people are doing the backlog at the moment. And the sound quality just hurts.
Yeah, that's true.
For 5, I think it was 5 episodes. So we actually moved to these microphones pretty quickly. But I think there was only about 5 episodes that we did where we recorded it on the phone. So we used to do it every 2 weeks.
We did, yeah.
So that's 10 weeks before we got the microphone.
Where we recorded on the phone.
And the thing is, it's still pretty good. Whenever I talk to people about recording podcasts when they want to start them, or if kids talk about recording things, I can never speak highly enough of the quality of just using a phone.
Yeah.
If you've got a phone and you've got
great
equipment
starting
to
point.
turn it up, and if you can put it in between each other, it was great. Anyway, that was just the thing that I was listening back to it and having a bit of a nostalgia blast. The second thing I want to mention is the most surreal thing that's ever happened to us in the entirety of Yergaday, and at the moment, probably my life. We have a listener, and I'm going to go as far to say an acquaintance, a friend,
A person we're aware of. Yeah.
Bree Weeks. She's been very active in the Yeah G'day fans group. And she recently sent us a touching Facebook message.
Yes. I'm glad you finished that off. Dan.
Yeah,
it's a message.
An
An emotional touching.
And here's basically what happened. Bree sent us an email to let us know that at university, she's studying, I think, sound design and vocal or something like that. Sorry, it's not my microphone. Great sound design there. She's doing sound and stuff, and they had an assignment where they had to pick an existing podcast and do an elevator pitch and record a 2-minute episode, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
She picked our show.
Okay.
And then she sent the stuff through to me.
Yep.
I read, it's only about like 10 pages of academic kind of writing about the pitch and everything like that. Tim and I have been in-text cited as Green and Huxtable, 2017 for various things that are on our websites and that we've said. So we're now scholarly. We have now finally, after years of trying, broken into the university world.
Finally, the academics are going to acknowledge us.
They're going to see us for who we are.
It's about time. I can't wait to be placed under house arrest like Galileo by the Pope. Wait, things have progressed since then, haven't
Because
they?
we know too much?
Yeah.
But so thank you, Bree, for doing and as I said, I read it. It was really cool. I listened to her 2-minute episode. It was very g'day, including her partner being one of her mock hosts and his name being Tim.
Oh.
Is it you?
It was me.
You're cheating on me.
No, we are starting a new podcast.
Yeah,
it's called Yeah G'day.
Called Yeah Good Day. And it's just very, very interesting, very weird. So everyone say thank you to Bree for
thank you,
doing
Bree.
some cool stuff. It makes things worth it in a way that I never thought they'd be.
It's unusual.
It's very
weird.
Tim and I don't really deal with these things well, but we're coping right now. So just send lots of lasagna.
As much lasagna as you can fit into a parcel.
I think that's all I had to say about Bree's work. Patreon, www.patreon.com/yeag'day. God, that was hard to get out. Our most recent donation, our most recent pledge comes from Andrew, X Vote Yes Pierce. He's his Vote Yes is an X, but it's not in his name anymore.
Oh, right.
So Andrew Pierce has started a new website. I think it's going to be an all-encompassing World Tour Expo by the look of it, about culture. He'll still do some film stuff, and he'll talk about music and all this other stuff, called The Curb, CURB. You can find that on Twitter, The Curb AU. You can find that on Instagram, The Curb AU, and you can find The Curb AU on Facebook. And there's a website which I believe is www.thecurb.com.au. He says as he slowly opens. Yeah, it is.
Wonderful.
So go check that out. It hasn't launched yet. I think the episodes in that are coming in.
Just be prepared.
Coming months, but get on that. And thank you for your pledge. And there will be a Patreon survey going out soon to our current patrons, and that we did our Shrek 2 movie commentary and a bonus episode on Hamilton.
Yes.
Recently. Tim, I think that's
we've talked
everything?
a lot, haven't we? Yeah.
I think so.
We've talked about a lot of stuff today.
Yeah, we've done a lot. I feel like there was one thing that I was meant to talk to you about. I said we had to talk about Brie, Bushrangers Brew.
Was
the
it
Curb. No, that was it, I think.
Taking out the garbage? Because
I don't think we do that.
We don't need to do that.
You need to do more of that.
Yeah, we don't need to do that on the podcast.
But yeah, okay. So thanks to Teylor Smirl, Tea Smell Smelly Tea, Smelly Belly Water Girly for our wonderful cover art.
And to Curtis Fernance of the Fern Tree Music Variety. Cheers, bruv.
Yeah. Short and sweet.
Yeah.
And thanks to all of you. Find us at Yeah G'day Podcast, www.yeag'day.com, and at yeag'daypodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
As always, yeah, g'day, Tim.
Yeah, g'day, Leon.
Yeah, g'day, everyone.
Yeah, g'day, everyone. Catch you on the flippity flop.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Auscast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Auscast.
Simply head to auscastnetwork.com for details.